Oh, you don't need to look at that. Okay.
Alright, here we go. So slightly later turning this time. Yeah, nice. And then this should be full throttle now, up through this next left. So even though you can't see where you're going, then brake. Yeah, pretty much as you arrive at the first blue and yellow curb, that's your braking point. I know this is going to look a bit messy to begin with because it is all blind. So you just have to do it a few times and get it wrong. And eventually then you'll get to the correct amount of steering input through that blind uphill left-hander.
Right.
Okay, so that's all right. We can just brake a little harder for that. So you weren't going particularly slowly through that before. You weren't a long way off there. So don't try and change that final corner too much. We'll just keep that firm brake pressure through there.
Okay.
Okay, so turn one was good. Try and replicate what you did last time. Nice, very smooth. Yeah, that's good. Then full throttle up here. And obviously it's a gentle turn into this blind left. And then brake pretty early. So as you get into that blind left, yeah, we're nearly there that time. Nearly there that time. You're just arriving at the tight corner way faster than you have been previously. So you've got a lot less time to get it slowed down for the right. Good job. So well done for getting it stopped that time. Okay, so brake as soon as you get to this yellow curb. Nice. Yeah, really good. Well done. So it's just a case of perfecting what you basically just did there. almost. So you found the one corner, or one of the only corners, where you have to be very smooth with throttle application. So, especially because we're in first gear. Okay, so just slightly earlier on the brakes for that right-hander. So move it back another 10 meters, so you're not struggling to get it into that turn 3, the right-hander there. But good through turn 1 and turn 2. Once we've got a really clean one in, we'll pause and have a little look at that.
Man.
Okay. So that's all right. We'll just brake slightly earlier and softer for that right-hander. So the mid-corner and the exit speed is more important than going in fast. So your entry speed into this tight right-hander is the least of the priorities in my mind. Because you've got this long old straight after it, you might make a momentary gain on the way in, but you'll then obviously suffer down this straight. And as you just saw there, if you have to end up carrying the brakes whilst you're turning, there's that danger as well of losing the rear. So just slightly earlier and softer on the brakes for that one. So let's do a couple more just to see if we can get like a fully clean one in. So I think you've got the potential for something really good here. So slightly earlier on the brakes here, and then you can turn in before you see the corner. This should all be full throttle down the hill here. Well done. Nicely executed through there. Oh, you held it. We were still maybe a little bit too late and hard on the brakes there, but you held it, so well done.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just switch over to the. Okay, cool. Can you hear me? Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Right. Mhm. Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's 40, yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The big thing is not hitting that one. That's what if you hit this one, you're done. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Get a little. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. All right. No, just exactly what you said. Mhm. 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 Okay. Great. Start. What's up?
Now it should work. Yeah, fixed it. I've got so many microphones plugged into my 2 PCs here, and when you unplug one, it then changes a setting on another one, and anyway, so I just have to keep on top of it. Right, let's go. Let's do it. Just checking you're still okay there, Pete. Yeah, okay. Are you just getting your VR back on, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. One real positive I found with this car is first flying lap seems to be when there's the most grip from the tyres. So they're obviously in tyre blankets, virtual tyre blankets, and I find literally my first timed lap tends to be the fastest one, and then the tyres drop off very slightly, only by like a couple of tenths. They're pretty consistent across a run, but my outright quickest lap, for whatever reason, seems to be the very first one. So you don't have to worry about like bringing the tyres in and up to temperature. Once you've done an out lap, they should be fine.
Right.
You'll get used to that. You'll get used to that cut. Just slightly more of a cut than you did on the last flying lap. So you don't have to really chop it off, just a little bit. Okay, nice. So that was definitely later on the way in, and you carried more speed. So that was maybe slightly optimistic with the entry speed. Having said that, you still nearly made it. Like, you actually... That shows you how much potential there is through there. You know, you barely braked for that time compared to normal.
Right.
And you still nearly didn't hit the barrier. So, anyway, car's fixed now, so... But yeah, for that bumpy, curby section, the kind of chicane at the bottom of the hill before you go up that rise, just slow it down a bit more than you did that time.
Okay.
Turn 1 and 2, though, really nice. Looked like a good little improvement, especially considering you're still just getting your eye in. And obviously that was just a bit too late on the brakes. Like 30 meters too late on the brakes.
Yeah.
So just remember that turning right before you can see where you're going. So that's even earlier turn into that blind right-hander. I know I sound like a broken record, but the next right-hander, focus on the exit, not the entry. So slow it down early is the message. Lovely and accurate through there. That was awesome. Really good in the left-hand part. Maybe went a tiny bit too quick into the right-hander, but made it. Okay, so stay wide on the entry to turn 1, like we were saying before. So we're going to go definitely still... Yeah. We're going to go a lot earlier into that right-hander still, but that's fine. We'll get there. We'll get there. You just got to build that muscle memory. So I'm going to watch that back to see exactly what happened there, because I know you're going to say that's because you hit the curb.
I got on the throttle early.
Oh yeah, it's because you got on the throttle too early, having hit the curb. So you used loads of inside curb. It bounced you more than normal. And you kept quite a lot of left lock on actually as well. So it's like you weren't intending to let the car run as wide. So those two things combined with getting on the throttle too early, that's it. If you really smash that curb hard and you're trying to keep it quite tight, you've got to be, in conjunction with that, you've obviously, as you know, got to be smoother on the gas. So you can kind of play it by ear. It depends what happens on each lap. If you don't hit the curb and you're running nicely wide, then yeah, you can basically mash the throttle pedal. If you hit the curb for a short distance and it's bouncing, you've just got to take that into account and be really smooth getting back on. Okay, so force it to stay wide longer. We still turned in pretty early on the last lap. Well done. Yeah, really well done. That was great. Turn right.
Too early on the brake there, too late on the turn there.
It's okay. The brakes weren't too bad. The right turn was still slightly late, but wasn't terrible.
Ooh, too late on the brakes there.
Yes, that was definitely too late on the brakes there. Yeah, that one was, I don't know how many meters. I'm going to wish for that. Yeah, so... Oh, yeah, it was a good 20 or 30 meters too late to make that without a crash. But you knew it straight away. There's a few corners on this track. That's one of them, and this is another one, where it's just so much more important to be clean through the middle than it is to be fast on the entry.
Yeah.
Turn 1, though, on this lap was really good. So try and repeat that on this one. That line was good too. We were like 5 miles an hour too fast on the entry, but your line and your turning point was really good. Oh, so good with the turning point now into there, Pete. That's awesome. So I think you actually turned right well there, but you braked really late. Because you're now going through turn 1 so fast, you just can't get away with braking that late. You were a good 10 or 15 metres later than I am into there. That was a decent effort. Well done. Yeah, so up into turn 2, or which is the braking point for turn 3. Bring that back a bit. Be gentle and early on the brakes. Because when you do, it's going to be so fast. So much better through there. That was great. Do that every lap. Good cut there as well. Really good. Nice effort.
The guy behind has just done a 115.80.
So earlier brake here, gentle, and then early turn. Good. You can go even earlier on that right-hand turn, because you can use the curb at the apex in the right-hander. But well done. Oh, nicely judged. Yeah, this is good. Very, very nice into this final chicane now. This is superb. Let's do one more. Look at that time gain. Awesome. Oh, hanging on for dear life. You made it. So even earlier turn. So we're going to go even earlier. 10 metres earlier than that next time. Once you've done it once, it'll be like a switch, and you'll do it every single time.
Too early.
That's all right. We can pause there, and we'll use that last lap as our little review lap, because that was good. So just hop out of the cockpit. Let's get the data loaded for this one, and we'll have a little look, because you're going to be a heck of a lot closer now on this data. But yeah, well done. That was really good. You had to make some pretty big changes there, and we got there, so that's good. And we can go even further. So. Let's just wait for this to load. It's just going to take its time, as always. Okay, if it decides to be slow, we'll watch the video first. Sometimes the lap times just appear, like straight away, and sometimes it takes ages. So let's go with this one. Let's take your last one, because it was just so much quicker than the others. Right, so let's look at the good things to start off with. You've still turned in slightly earlier than I would say is ideal, but you've forced yourself to go a lot later than you were previously doing. So your natural tendency was to already be like over here. So you have tweaked it, but just again for a visual comparison, look how wide I want you to be when it loads. I want you to be that wide, so like this close to the white line, rather than kind of, we're about 1 car width over, I reckon, when we look at your best one there. So there's still a little bit of potential to make turn 1 easier for you. Let's just check that again. Yeah, you see that, let's say half a car width. So there's a little bit more, but it's a massive improvement on the last one. So I'm pretty sure I said there were 3 car widths between you and the edge, so a lot less.
Yeah.
So that's allowing you to go into here so much faster. You're still hitting the apex really well, using all the track here. This is nice. And this is a good position on the way up the hill here as well. So, we still did slightly too much of a sharp turn early here, because you still were like, oh crap, there's the grass. So the grass like appeared as a surprise here, and you're having to reduce the steering angle at this point to effectively compensate for that, like there. but not bad. Really not bad. Just go from when you do your turn into this turn 2. Just do it even slightly more progressively on the next one. Slightly slower, so you arrive at the inside at the curb, not on the grass here, if possible. But anyway, still good. You're doing really, really well. And then, that's definitely the closest we've been to this. That is definitely the closest. However, I want you to take a more diagonal line from here straight across that curb. You see how we kind of go straight, and then we've got this one big turn here? I want you to be tracing like where my cursor is here, like kind of more diagonally across. And that'll come from, again, just an earlier turn, then you'll turn less, effectively. So we haven't ever touched this curb. I want your right-hand tyres to kiss this little kind of yellowy coloured block in the middle there. So really straddle it. I don't know whether I managed it on my lap, but let's just see. See if that's where it went. Okay, I didn't quite manage it, but yeah, that I'd be happy with that. If you manage to get to there, then I'd be pleased. And you'll find the delta time will just go green. It'll go bright green because it's so much shorter and faster to go this way, and you can just get on the gas so much earlier. So that will be a big improvement. But anyway, that lap you just did there was obviously significantly better than before, so that's great. So let's just go through here. So that then set you up for a good lap. Okay, so you used the curb quite early here and bounced off. I think ideally you want to be either tracking this yellow line so that you're opening up this corner. You can just, you can literally see the V shape between the car and the curb here. So you can like pull it right a little bit longer. If you're going to use the curb, try and use it at that bit rather than this bit. But I'd appreciate it's hard to do it the same every time through here. But you've got very little space here to make this corner, and you somehow made it. And you didn't even use all the exit. So that's probably on this lap where there's a big chunk of additional time we can gain. Because we've had to overslow it because of that kind of early peeling away from the edge. But that's okay. Fixable. That's easily fixable. And what happened through these next two. This is nice, by the way. Really, really like this. Absolutely maximising the width. It's very good. Very smooth into there. So you probably agree, because you can see it very clearly from this view, I think you maybe started to commit to this corner a bit early, and then you kind of straightened up now, and then went again. There was again, a kind of 2 attempts at that corner. Probably looks more obvious from the onboard. We kind of straighten, we'll go left a bit, and then turn again. So obviously, as I know you know, that suggests you went a bit too early initially. So just stay left slightly longer than you planned to here. Where you're peeling off of the edge at the the 4th blue block. Not that I want you to count them, but where you're peeling off at the 4th, wait maybe until like the 3rd and a half, and then you'll make one nice arc turning in. And yeah, you won't have to slow it down quite as much, that's all. And obviously aim to come off all the way wide if you can as well. So there's a couple of corners. We've still got some potential for extra speed, but fundamentally you've made a huge improvement. This looked really good. I mean, boom, absolutely spot on. That's mega. I think that's about as much as you can use without getting a penalty. So really nice. And even here, really nice. It sometimes loses you too much time if you use the mud here. So I think this was a good compromise. Now I wondered why we cut so much. It almost looks like you got a bit of oversteer there. I'm not sure whether you did or whether you just turned quite early. It's like we tried to cut too much. Yeah, I think you went a little extreme on the corner cut, and then you turned left because you're like, that's too much, and then you turn again. So same thing as in the other corner we just spoke about. Just go slightly later and do it in one if you can.
I think I might have been
you can because you've done it on other.
I might have been aggressive on the throttle as well. Which might have been
maybe it pivoted early or something. So.
I can't quite remember. Yeah.
And obviously that's perfect through the final corner. So let's see if the data's loaded yet, just so we can see some quantifiable. Here we go. Yeah, perfect. Let's turn it green. Okay, look at this. Huge gains. Turn 1 and turn 2 in particular, massive. Let's talk about the others in a minute, but look at that. That's so much better. You're like almost matching me now through those corners. Significantly better. And look at your braking shape. You've essentially done exactly what I asked you to do on the brakes. You've squashed it down to 30%, and you've made it much later. So that's just great. You've also totally removed the braking event that you were doing on the approach to turn 2, so that's way better. Just generally awesome. Turn 3, still massive area for improvement, so that's good. That means that there's some lap time there, a big chunk of time, because you're basically exactly the same as you were previously. That's all about that early right turn.
Yeah.
Just turning it in. So that's fine. We can do that, but we'll just keep that in mind because there's definitely some more speed to carry through turn 3. You're definitely better then though through turn whatever the hell this one is, because there's like 4 corners in between here.
Yeah.
The uphill left, much better. But as you can see from the graph, you've gone in too fast. You've actually tried it too fast. So you can wind it back, focus on the accuracy in the middle, because you're actually being too brave on the brakes there now.
Okay.
You were already braking later than me before, but before you were going significantly slower than me. Now you're a lot closer, you just can't afford to brake that much later. And let's see how many meters. 1273, 1315. So yeah, you're like 40 meters later. That is a long way. So you can brake a lot earlier, and then you won't have to have, you see how you're like, brake. You're increasing your pressure as you're like, shit, I'm not going to make it. You know, you can see that in the way you apply the brakes. Make it a bit more like, you see how mine is quite a nice calm, everything's under control, I can reduce the pressure, everything's fine. And then you're also asking the tyres to do less work as you approach the tight part of the corner. So you're still braking pretty heavily as you're getting into the middle of that corner. So earlier, less, and it'll all be under control, and that'll just allow you to do what my blue line does here, rather than the exaggerated backwards S shape we've got here. So we'll just smooth that one out. So that's good. I like it when my advice is go a bit slower, brake a little earlier. You're trying too hard, because then it will just feel nicer when you do it as well. Then we've got the next couple of rights, our two 90-degree rights. Let's have a little look at this. Okay, so your exit, the first one, clearly way better. But you're compromising too much of the entry in order to do that. So previously you were going in a bit too fast. You're now going in a bit too slow. We'll try and find a happy middle ground. Your line's way better though. Like the line, when you look at the map here, you were way too wide on the previous one. Now it's fine. Now it's really good. It's just we don't want to overslow it quite as much. It's just the kind of the peak of the braking pressure. We're like 30% a bit too high. So a little bit less pressure, a little bit more of a trail. You see how yours is like on and then off. And I've still got some blue going on here, until here. So you'll be able to brake less and carry more speed if you just trail a bit into there. The next one, you don't really trail as much because it's tighter and slower. And you're not that far off me here, and you weren't that far off before. So let's maybe set that second one aside as like a second project, because I don't want you to have too much to remember through all those. But bear in mind, if you do manage the first one faster, you're going to have to brake earlier for the second one, because you're just going to be arriving there quicker. But yeah, anyway, that's the only thing mainly to work on there. Then we get to the final chicane, and second part in particular is much better. We can probably brake slightly. Well, you're braking at the right point actually, but we're lifting quite early. Okay, right. Here's a separate thing that we've not really spoken about. Let's sharpen up when you do a lift and then get on the brakes. You can see how you're like rolling off the pedal and rolling onto the brake. So actually, if I just take this point here, you're crossing over the pedals at this point. You've got 59% throttle when you've got 8% brake. And then if I keep going, you've still got 25% throttle when you've got 14% brake. Try and have much less of a crossover, because obviously you're fighting against yourself if you're doing any crossing over like that. So make it a much more sharp, like bam, off one onto the other, rather than like blending them across in this braking area. So that's something it's just a little minor technique change. But since we've seen it here, and it's a very straight line braking point, so you don't really need to do much. Well, you don't need to do any blending on the beginning of the braking point. It's literally, I want to be going fast now I want to begin my deceleration. So just come off the brakes, get on the brakes slightly harder, just remove this kind of trailing onto the brakes, and off the throttle sharper. That's it. And the mid-corner speed on the way into that first part, okay, there's some difference there, but again, let's not focus on that, because your line was really tidy, and your second part of the chicane was great. So we'll just carry on focusing on the other bits. We'll come back to this at another time if if it's still a problem. And then final corner, yeah, we saw when we watched the video, this bit here is where you did that kind of cut and then had to then run wide. That's what this little jink is here, so we can ignore that. Normally you're fine. So main things, turn 1's really good, turn 2 is decent, like way better than before. Focus on that earlier turn to turn 3, cut the apex curb, even though I know you can't see it. Earlier brake for the uphill left-hander. Just keep it under control without over-slowing it. So just a little earlier on the brakes, that'll give you the freedom to be smooth and clean up the hill. Slightly faster into the first 90-degree right. Don't try and change the next one. And less crossing over of the pedals into that final chicane. So let's do another run. I know we're like nearly at time for this session, but it's a quick lap. So let's just go do a run anyway. Let's maybe go do 5 laps, 5 flying laps. Just so you've, even if you don't nail it, just so you've done those things or tried those things I just spoke about, and they're like, you've at least begun the process. Let's do it. But this has been great though, Pete. Really, really good. Like, I mean, the amount of time you've gained just in this one session is awesome. So remember, we're going to probably be in like the bottom split of this race, one of the lowest splits, like the amateur split. So if you're like 3 seconds off, which you are, is that what you're off now?
I think I'm
3 seconds off. No, you're
Okay.
3.5. And we've only done one session here. Most people, and this is a hard, it's a fast car. If most people get within 3 seconds of me, they'll be doing really well in this split. So you could very much end up as one of the fastest people in the split if you carry on with this trajectory. So this is great. Let's do it.
That's excellent. What we want.
Yeah, and if you can do that consistently and without crashing, then perfect.
So for some reason, I did a little bit of oval racing over the weekend.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, maybe it's just because I'm from North Carolina,
But I was instantly fast. I have no idea why.
Yeah, you've got that skill born in you when you're from that part of the world.
I left rookies with like a 1200 IR.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the world's best oval coach though, so don't get into it too much.
Yeah. No, I mostly I've been watching more IndyCar.
Yep.
And I think that maybe next season, because they do they do something like mirrors IndyCars season.
Yeah.
And I thought
really
that'd be fun.
It's really good. Yeah, I love the IndyCar and iRacing. It's awesome.
But I figured I needed to know how to do an oval because I'd never done an oval before.
I'm so glad iRacing got the license back for IndyCar because
I know.
iRacing IndyCar was always excellent. It's such a good model. The car feels so, not that I've driven a real one, but it feels exactly like you'd expect it to feel, and it looks good as well. So.
Brakes are not quite warm yet.
It's okay. I don't judge you on the first lap. not yet, anyway. Not yet. If we're getting close to the race, then we'll focus on first lap performance.
Yeah.
So your turn-in point was excellent. We didn't turn in quite sharply enough, but the point was brilliant. Oh, brilliant. Okay, now you might have got an off-track there or a slowdown. You can tell me.
I did.
Okay, so you went just a fraction too far, but that's the first time we've bounced over the curb, so well done.
Just too early.
No problem. It's alright. This isn't one of the corners that I was concerned about, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know it's too much. I know we're cutting a bit too much, but this is what you've got to go through this process to find what feels right. And we're going to have done thousands of laps here before the main event, so this is just the start. Make some notes, so I'm just going to mute myself so you don't hear my keyboard typing.
Okay.
That was maybe a little bit too early. I do like that you're listening to me and turning in early now. That was just quite an extreme. It's better to go slightly slower, you know, slow the car down a little bit more, so you can be accurate with that turn.
What makes you think it was a little early?
Just that you were like, you cut half the circuit off, that's all. I'm just making notes about all the stuff we've spoken about.
Okay, so something I've noticed.
Yep.
Sometimes a little tap of the brakes will save a spin, and other times it'll make a spin worse. Does that have to do with which tires are spinning?
Okay, so I need to see like specific examples to comment on exactly why that is. It'll be to do with exactly how much rear momentum you have at the point you get on the brakes. So sometimes, you know, quite often, if you're able to lock the front, for example, and you're in oversteer, that will straighten the car up. It will straighten you up. If, however, the rear is, you know, if you're already in oversteer and the rear is really coming around on you, the momentum, especially in a rear engine car, the momentum of that weight of the engine behind you, by slowing the front down, you're just exaggerating the oversteer because it allows the rear to keep moving fast and the front like is stopping. That was a great line, by the way. So yeah, it depends on the dynamics of the situation.
Ooh, too much too early. That hurt.
really nice into that time. Okay, so you went in so well, you ended up holding it too far to the right on the exit because it just went where you told it to. So well done. Yeah, you've done really well so far on this lap. Nice lap time. Well held.
Damn.
Right, I think I've finished my notes for the moment. That'll do. Okay, let's do one more maybe, just so I can actually focus on watching this one.
Okay.
You've definitely made some big improvements though, like into turn 3, that was the key one. Yeah, lovely. Oh, this is looking so much better, so much better. You just needed time to build the muscle memory. Nice, good job. So consistent, that looked great to me. I know you've not smashed through the 1 minute 15 barrier, but you will because you're now doing 15s all the time. So, right, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to just show you the notes before we end, but you know it won't be any surprise to you. It'll be exactly what we've spoken about. So basically, I've just used the lap that you did before that 15 dead, but I know you've now done turn 3 a lot better than this, but obviously this is just based on what you did on that last run. So I've simply said turn 1 you're now really close, much higher speed through there. It's just great, so keep doing what you're doing with a focus on using all the track on the entry, but I've been watching you do that consistently now, so that's good. That's just more just like a reminder. Turn 2 obviously you've completely fixed that, it's just flat out up the hill, so that's easy. Turn 3 will remain a bit of a focus, so just keep practicing that. Obviously, if you're doing laps, you're going to practice every corner, every lap, but keep that one specifically in mind because there's so much time to be gained by getting that right, and because you can't see it, you have to do it without the visual cues. So I've just seen you do it very, very well a number of times there, so that's good. The uphill left-hander, I watched you be quite neat and tidy on that run. Make sure you are under control on the way where you've got the curb, and it's bouncy and horrible and you're going up that hill. Make sure you're under control, but don't go too slowly. So it's more how late you were trying to brake before. You can brake a bit earlier, but still go quicker through the apex than you had been, if that makes sense. Because you'll be under control and the car will be stable, you'll be able to dictate the line up the hill and the early throttle. So just keep some pressure on yourself to have a fast mid-corner speed there, just obviously not at the expense of losing control. But the big thing is don't try and brake as late as you were before. You were already going too fast, so that's fine. Then we've got the first of the 90-degree rights. Just make sure you're maximising the entry speed into there and like doing a bit of a trail rather than an early hard brake. Just make it slightly later, slightly softer brake. The hairpin, I'm calling it a hairpin because it feels like a hairpin. It's not. It's a 90-degree right, but it's a very, very tight 90-degree right. Just make sure it's the exit that's the focus. I was watching you do it pretty well there. So with more sessions, more laps, you will just perfect it more and more. But that's one of the corners where if you've overheated the rears, if you've had a hard few laps, it will suffer there and you'll just lose time on the exit anyway. So don't try too hard to make up time there because you'll probably end up losing time by just sliding or the traction control cutting in because you're trying to get on the gas too early or too hard. So that's that. Final chicane, just really lovely. A load of times I watched you through there and you're just mashing the first curve. So just keep that up. Keep doing that. Final chicane's a real good point for you there. There's a little bit of potential improvement from that previous run on the speed across the first curb, but if you start running too deep, then bring it back because the line looks really good. The only little clue, the only slight difference here when I look at our inputs is the blue steering inputs in that chicane. I'm literally turning the wheel further than you, so I'm at like 20 degrees-ish more on a peak steering. I'm not holding it for very long, it's just like a little bit more at the point where you're like in the tightest point of those two corners. So just consider that. If you're finding you can't carry any more speed without it going wider, just consider like a little bit more angle, but not for very long. Obviously, otherwise it'll develop into understeer. But that's it, really. Really, really great effort. So I'm super pleased with that. I think that's a really good foundation to work on. So
Great.
I'm going to stop.